How we doing, folks? Thought I'd do a wee video, answer some questions that a few people have been sort of directing into us regarding some of the pictures that I've been putting on the community site. One of the main questions was, navigating the skies and how to find stuff, and what kind of camera I used. To answer the latter, the cameras are basically a Samsung Galaxy S9 on night mode or on pro mode, so that you can manipulate the exposure lengths, which is most crucial for taking any pictures, especially the night sky. A lot of other factors come into play: light pollution, weather, equipment used, if you're using a telescope, etc. Most of the shots that I'll do live viewing through the telescope, or I'll just use a simple camera shot. The other camera that I use is a Nikon Coolpix, an L810, just a basic simple digital camera, and has a zoom, a 28 digital times zoom. By far one of the cheapest kind of digital cameras that you can pick up on the market, as opposed to a £400 or £500 Canon DSLR or a Nikon D100 or D1700, sorry, which could cost up to the regions of £700, etc. And a lot of the methods that are getting developed using simple frames for 1 or 2 second exposures that you can do for these types of cameras and on your mobile phone can easily be stacked using software on a PC or a laptop, and you can almost compete with the guys with the £600-700 pieces of equipment, just because of the type of methods you're using to stack your shots, as opposed to having a single frame of a long exposure following on a scope with a tracker, which allows you to follow the target through the sky as the earth revolves. So with that in mind, one of the most crucial things is knowing the night sky. Nowadays you can literally download an app for the likes of the Play Store, and you can use the app, point it at the sky, and it'll show you literally what you're looking at. Unfortunately for me, when I got into astronomy, mobile phones were very, very far and few between, and I believe the Motorola phone was one of the first that were sort of out in the late 70s, and it was basically a brick powered by another brick that you had to carry about with a wheelbarrow. So astronomy back then was an infancy for me, and I had to learn, using the old school way, by using books and a thing called a library, for some millennials that might not know what they are. This is a book that we have in front of us here. It has pages and stuff in it. You can find them at libraries. You can even Google what a library is, to get some sources of information. But 99% of all of the stuff you'll find in books is probably available online now in one forum or another, and a lot of good demonstrations on how to find stuff and what methods are being used by professionals are online on YouTube. Most people will skip to these parts and never really get the experience of what it actually is like to do astronomy yourself, even on a simple scale, simply just looking through a pair of binoculars on a nice clear night. And some of the stuff that you can see is absolutely spectacular. You would never believe what's floating above your head Really is really absolutely beautiful. However, when I learned how to navigate, I used a thing called a Planisphere, and it was basically a plastic disc with another plastic disc on it that had an open aperture window that allowed you to see what was in the sky, depending on, you know, what month of the year it was. So you had January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, etc., all the way round. And you would look up the constellations and star hop basically till you found your target. And it was frustrating, it was extremely difficult, especially if you had the slightest bit of light pollution and you missed a star, and you would, I mean, just a small percentage of the sky and you can miss a target by a couple of 100,000 light years, which is stupid and comprehensible sizes. For the astronomers out there, one arc degree and you can be looking at a completely different part of the sky that is several hundreds of light years away from where your target is. So navigating the sky back then was extremely difficult. Nowadays, much more easier, thanks to the invention of the phones and the mobile apps that's coming along with them. So to find out a wee bit more about what you can see with the naked eye is where we next step to. Most people will know their birth sign, so they'll be able to understand the constellation that they're most familiar with, which is, you know, their own birth sign. For me, I was born in May, so mine's is Taurus, and here's Taurus here. Obviously, without the lines going across the screen, you would only majorly see in the sky the bigger stars in that image there. The dusty patch, that's the representation of the Milky Way, the dusty part of the Milky Way. And here is the constellation Orion, and you've got Betelgeuse here, Bellatrix and Rigel, and everybody will know the famous three as the belt. These ones here, these actually represent the shield of Orion, and the smaller ones up here represented the sword that he carried, this Orion's belt being the belt that he wore around his waist. The Pleiades, it's like a small cluster of stars in the night sky. Everybody, I believe, knows what these are. We have Aquarius and Pisces. If you notice this line, the yellow line, this is actually the line where most of the planets are visible, and I'll explain that in a minute or two when I go through. It's also the line in which the sun follows during the summer. During it's a wee bit higher up. And to show you what we would have seen in May, because I think May is going to be a complete washout because of the weather, and it's quite sad actually for that. It's a bit rubbish. Northern latitudes and southern latitudes, when I explain a few bits and bobs, some people can get a wee bit confused and fluttered in the head regarding the latitudes and the hemispheres and so forth. I'll just briefly go over what that means so that everybody can sort of follow along. If you're looking at a globe of the Earth and you see the lines going from top to bottom, or north to south if you like, these are the latitude lines. You know, if you just imagine them that you were underneath the lines and you were looking up towards the sky, the northern latitude lines are the ones that are running from obviously the North Pole to the South Pole. The hemisphere basically means that if you're in the northern hemisphere, you're above the northern part of the equator, sort of the top half section of the Earth. as opposed to the southern hemisphere, which would be anything below the equator: Australia, South America, Africa, etc. So when we say northern latitude, we're basically meaning for your position where you are and you're looking towards the North Pole. That's the northern latitudes. If you're on the central belt of the equator and you're looking southerly, you're looking along the southern latitudes. If you were in Scotland, same kind of thing applies. If you're looking north, you're looking along the northern latitude lines, and if you're looking on the southern, you're just looking south. So some of the objects that I was going to try and get on a live cam proved a wee bit difficult using the Facebook live. So we're going to do a bit of a mix when we get around to it. The live camera on the app for Facebook is rubbish, and you can't use a lot of the functions that I need to show you guys what it actually looks like. And because you're streaming it, you lose a lot of the data that's getting collected, and it drops the image quality, and it's just no good enough yet. It'll probably get eventually there, but hey ho. So we're going to use a bit of recording the live and then switching back and forth so that I can show you what the video actually looks like using the camera functions, so that I've got them at my beck and call, if you like. But some of the clusters that I was going to show you, this one in particular, which is really nice, it's basically it's the M12. It's a Messier object. It was basically Charles Messier discovered this in 1964, and it's absolutely stunning to look through the telescope. You can see these with a small telescope and a pair of binoculars, and some of these clusters can be naked with visible with the naked eye. There's another one that can be spotted as well. There's actually a wee picture of here. And it's really nice to look at. This is a magnitude 6.6 to give you an idea of the magnitudes. There is a wee, where is that wee key? There is a small key here. I'll show you on the main one so that we can keep it on me. If this was the representation of the sky, if you were standing in the centre and you were looking up at the night sky, that's how the sky would look for... Sorry, that's south. I've got it the wrong way. There we go. If you're looking north, that's what the sky would look like in the northern latitudes. And if you were looking south, for the centre of the page down, that's what the southern hemisphere would look like. So if most of us all look north, because north is the darker sky, and you'll recognise Cassiopeia. Almost directly above your head is Ursa Major, and you have a few galaxies: the Spiral, the Pinwheel, the Andromeda Galaxy. The Andromeda Galaxy is the one that you can see with the naked eye. That's the one that's a dusty patch. If you look at Cassiopeia, and it looks like an upside down W or an M, and if you follow this star cluster line here and drop down, or drop up rather, you can see that dusty patch. It's better seeing it earlier in the year, around about February, March, to be honest, when it's over this side a wee bit. And it's a nice wee clustery visible objects up here to look at. There's an open cluster up here. There's a couple of variable twin stars. There's another cluster here. There's loads to see in the night sky, and a lot of it can be seen with a simple basic small telescope, and some of them are really, really nice. Some of the deeper objects that I try and have a look at I'm using a 10-inch Dobsonian, and it is a big scope. I mean, it stands almost 4 feet tall, and it's got a diameter about the same width as this entire page. So it is a big heavy thing, but it's absolutely great looking at some of these objects. The magnitude, as I was going to explain, when you're looking at the stars, they're ranged in a category called the star magnitudes. The ones with the red sort of ring around it, these are called variable stars. These are the ones that pulsate. The magnitude rate goes from minus many numbers to plus 8, 9, 10. But to give you an idea, a 10 would almost be invisible, a 5 just visible, and then it gets brighter as it gets towards the negative side of numbers. To give you an idea, if you were looking north last month and you saw Venus was at a magnitude of -8, I think it was, really super bright. Most of the planets that you can see have a negative magnitude, like say Saturn, Jupiter, Mars and Venus, and on certain occasions Mercury, depending on where Mercury is. If it's on the other side of the sun, it's going to be way down. So that gives you an idea of what the magnitude scale is. The key on this shows us galaxies, globular clusters, open clusters, diffuse nebulas and planetary nebulas. It shows us the horizons at the certain degrees, north latitudes, the zeniths plus 60 degrees north, 40 degrees, 20 degrees, and it also gives me the ecliptic lines. I'll explain roughly what these are when we're going through what I'm going to actually show you. For next month in June, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, Neptune, Venus, Jupiter and Uranus will all be visible, albeit Neptune, Uranus, not be able to see with the naked eye, but you can spot them with some scopes. All the rest of the planets, Mars, Saturn and Jupiter and Venus, can be seen very easily with the naked eye. But to get some detail, we pair of binoculars, 10x50 would do just the job. And here is, if you think of that line here as being the horizon, and these at certain times of the day. So if you were going out at night and you were looking towards the morning, or the evening sky rather, sorry, and you're looking in this direction at these particular times, these correspond to what constellations are running along this path where the planets are usually visible. And if you look at these ones here, in the constellation of Taurus, it shows you Mars, which is represented by the number, sorry, not Mars, yeah, Mars, it is Mars, as in the red. Why is it saying, it's the dates of the month of when these particular planets are visible. So you've got the 15th, Mars will be up here, then on the 13th, the 11th, and then the 16th of the following, 14th, 12th, etc. all the way through. The other numbered circles here, you've got Saturn, which is the yellow. You've got the silver up here, which is Mercury. We've got a picture here of Scorpius, and it also has a couple of galaxies and open clusters that can be spotted with a small scope. We also have the Constellation Hercules, which we have a nice wee galaxy called NGC 6210 and a little open cluster. Right. Excuse me. Here we've got the northern latitudes, so if you're looking north, and then you've got the west and the east. You've got your horizon line, and you can look for that star, which is the brightest star in the sky, Vega. No, it's the brightest star in the sky at the moment, and you can star hop basically once you find the brightest object, and you can bounce from star to star to find different areas. The one that's most commonly used with astronomers is Polaris. You can find that on the bottom of the handle on Ursa Major. There's a few wee objects around about Polaris that's quite nice to see as well. There's also a nice wee view in what's known as Cygnus here. There is a two sets of stars that are actually really quite nice to see. They have a magnitude that's quite bright. It's 3.1 to 5.1, and they're over 380 light years away, and a small telescope brings it out like this, and it's quite stunning to see that like that. We also have in Scorpius an open cluster. It's a 4.2 magnitude, so it's quite bright in a telescope, so you can make out a lot of these stars, also known as the butterfly cluster. In Sagittarius, you've got the Lagoon Nebula. It's one of the most stunning things I've ever seen. Through obviously a pair of binoculars or even a small scope, it's no going to look that red unless you're using filters, etc. But it does, you can see a glowing patch through a pair of binoculars or a telescope. In the Hercules, you have the Hercules cluster, which is one of my favourites for looking at. The big scope brings this out absolutely beautiful, and even in this book, a large Dobsonian telescope, for example, which coincidentally I have, is absolutely amazing. It's one of the most drawn to objects that I feel I've got to have a look at for some reason. I don't know why, just got to have a look at it. It's amazing to look at. And we'll go through June when we get to the start of June, and we'll have a quick viewing of what can be seen in the sky, and hopefully guys by then the weather's a wee bit more calmer and a lot less rainier, and we should get a wee live view and a couple of recordings, hopefully some of the clusters, and you guys will be able to see these. And keeping fingers crossed, hopefully over the next few weeks, maybe another month or so, and we can get this locked down a wee bit more relaxed, and maybe start inviting people to the garden again, and you guys can have a look for yourselves. So until then, stay safe peeps, take it easy.